The Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.
Well, it's a real pleasure being here in this very distinguished gathering. What I propose to do this morning is to walk you through a case study of entrepreneurship which we have started at IBA Karachi, which is the oldest business school in not only Asia, but outside North America. It was established in 1955 by Wharton in Pennsylvania, and it's now almost getting to 60 years old. So why we think globalization, technological change, and demographics require fresh thinking on the role of business schools in developing countries. Like all other business schools, IBA is a standard MBA, BBA, executive MBA school. It has been producing the leaders of the Pakistan industry, corporate sector, Middle East, North Africa, Singapore. They are all over the place. But we felt that now it is a time to start looking afresh after 60 years. And our basic hypothesis is that we should look at those drivers of change and produce professionals with capabilities and qualities which enable them to compete in this new environment. The world around us is changing, and it is going to change even more rapidly in the next few decades. So what we want to do is to look at our own demographics and what the drivers of change in the world are, and see how we can try to marry these two imperatives. We have a very large youthful population, and we expect that in order to meet the formal employment, that's not going to be enough jobs which are created in the economy. 9-to-5 jobs are not going to match the kind of supply of graduates which are coming out of Pakistani schools, and particularly business schools. So we have a new model which emphasizes entrepreneurship, innovation, and creativity. Easier said than done. So what is the motivation behind this? If you look at most of the family businesses, Mr. Qasim gave a very good account of what is happening in Sri Lanka, and it's not very different. Mostly these are family-owned businesses. They're very conservative, they're very cautious, and therefore, from an economic point of view, they are operating within what the economists call as the production possibility frontier or the efficiency frontier. But the tragedy is that most of our MBAs, they end up working for the P&Gs and the Unilevers and the Standard Chartered banks and the multinational corporations, which have their very set rules, regulations, systems, and procedures. So all what you teach them on the leadership is not really being applied because they are a cog in the machine in the big multinational corporations. So you have a disconnect between what the economy is actually looking for and what we are supplying. I give you one example. Pakistan is the largest export sector is textiles. The last time we looked at the productivity of the textile sector, it is 40% of China. Why? That they are mainly family-owned businesses who do not let go of the new ideas and new technologies, new human resources which can enhance the productivity. So this gap somehow is to be filled in. Now this is a universal phenomena that risk-taking is a normal distribution curve. Only 10 to 15% in any population are actually willing to take risk. Most of them are risk averse or risk neutral. So the idea is that we have to concentrate on those who are the risk takers. Every class has some risk takers. So our focus should be on that segment which is risk taker. And this is what we are trying to do. So in order to do this, in a class of 100 MBAs, we can reach only 15 of them. That's not good enough. So we have tried to have partnerships, networks, and alliances with other institutions, and which are specializing in these creative and innovative programs. The resources are limited as far as even the faculty resources are concerned. And you have only 15 students who might be interested in entrepreneurship. So that's not a critical mass. So we have got a different type of target groups at different life cycles. As you saw in Tasneem, you had the initial stages, you had the middle level, and now it is an operating. This is the life cycle of an organization. And we have to prepare them. One shoe doesn't fit all. You may be very good at turnaround of an organization, but you may be a complete failure when you have reached the maturity level of an organization. So this is the distinction of the entrepreneurs, that you should let it go once you have reached a certain stage. And this transition from a creative, dynamic organization to a well-established, well-running corporate is something which is very difficult. But most of them, they don't do this. So we are trying to bring in the MBAs to start up their own businesses. They may have their family businesses or they may not have their family businesses. And this is what the scope of the activities of this center is. We provide program in entrepreneurship, which is for the future startup businesses. But we also feel that, like the executive education which Mile is providing, we should also provide executive education or non-formal education to certain target groups which are already in entrepreneurship. And we have decided to focus on women entrepreneurs and youth and unemployed graduates. That's our service to the community. As a business school, we cannot remain an ivory tower organization. We have to go and serve the community. So this is the non-formal training and community outreach. And then we do the normal things which are done, the National Business Plan Competition, incubator spaces, seed funding, and angel funding for successful. This is a bread and butter of entrepreneurship. But we also do research and local case studies and try to disseminate them. We are the only institution from Pakistan who are the members of the Global Entrepreneurship Monitoring. We produce an annual report on the state of entrepreneurship in the country. But we also have international collaboration with Pakstan College in Boston, which is the #1 entrepreneurship school. Our faculty is trained there, their faculty comes in, the curriculum is exchanged, and we have a consortium of 12 partner institutions because we cannot do it alone. we have to have partner institutions. BBA Entrepreneurship Program is offered as a distinct stream. The curriculum is not same as that of the BBA, who want to go and work for 9 to 5. And the ratio, as I said, is if there are 300 students in the BBA normal program, regular program, there are only 30 or 40 students in this program. But the final year, they have to produce a project, not on paper, but they have to start a business. That's the difference between the regular program. And these modifications take place. It's a continuous learning process. We don't have final word as this is what works and what doesn't work. So it's a continuous monitoring and refinement process. The internships are tailored and targeted towards entrepreneurial ventures. So there was a hawker who used to sell, food in one corner. Now he is a big, it's called Barbecue Tonight, and it's one of the best food outlet, which has expanded not only in Karachi, but even in Dubai and other places. Now we say you should be attached with that group because you can learn how they reached that stage. And then we have also brought not only people who have succeeded, but who have failed as entrepreneurs. So you should learn from the failures and see how you can avoid those mistakes which were done by others. The objective of this course is to sort of capture the value from the business opportunities which they are already doing. Now, Women Entrepreneurship Program is something which we're very, very excited about. I was the chairman of one of the largest microcredit institution in Pakistan. It was an NGO. And I found that there were women who were battered by their husbands, and now they own boutiques which employ 50 people. So there are a lot of stories which show that if you provide them not only the finance, but also the skills and know-how. Some of them, they didn't know the difference between revenue and the profits. So everything which came to them every day, they thought that was their income. So when they want to buy the cloth, they didn't have the money because they had already spent that money. That this is not your money. This is the money you have to set aside because this is to buy the raw materials and inputs. They just expanded their business like anything because they were going broke. So we think that women are more serious-minded as compared to us, and they are very good entrepreneurs. So we are looking at women entrepreneurships. The other problem which we are having, and we have no solution to this problem, that even for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we take about 19 hours per week. They say, we don't have anybody else to take care of our business. We have to shut down our business at that time for these 19 hours, and we lose money. That's a very genuine problem because it's a one person or at most two-person show. So we have this difficulty. So now we are bringing in people where there are 5 or 4 workers, so at least one of them can come in. But if we want to expand, we have this difficulty. Now, the more successful has been to bring in unemployed graduates from the rural population of Sindh province, where Karachi is located, for 6 months intensive training in setting up and managing agro-businesses. The agro-businesses in the rural areas are in complete pits. There is so much of waste and so much of inefficiency that if the producer gets 1 rupee for his produce, the consumer has to pay 2 rupees because the entire supply chain is totally disruptive. So what we told them, that you go back to your villages, you go back to the rural areas with the techniques and the knowledge which we have given, and try to pick up some part of the supply chain and try to improve it. And 65 out of the 90 of them have gone back and started their own businesses, finding the niche. We don't prescribe as to what you need to do. They look at the opportunities which are available there. We give them the tools in order to get this, and you start on an affordable loss basis, and then you build it up. If you're waiting for everybody else, then you won't be able to do it. So we have immersion in the field. They go to field for livestock, for horticulture, for processing, storing, so they get a practical experience also in addition to the classrooms. And as I said, most of them have started. The other thing which we are doing is the National Business Plan competition. And here the lesson is very interesting. We used to have IBA team, the engineering university team, the design and art school team, the biotechnology team. Now, they were very good in their own fields, but they didn't know how to put a business together. So what we did, we said, yes, you have a good idea as an engineer, but you don't know the financing and you don't know the marketing. So we will put an MBA with you from another school, a business school, so there will be a mixed team. And then the things which were totally infeasible became feasible because of this cross-fertilization of interdisciplinary. So we have come to the conclusion that the silos in which our educational system operates is actually an obstacle for entrepreneurship. What we need is more cross-disciplinary and interdisciplinary skill sets which should work together. And this is a lesson which I thought MILE as a new institution might benefit from this. We then provide them incubation centers, and the new concept is a crowdfunding. A house like this, you make a presentation, some say, oh, I'll invest 5 rupees. The other says, I have 10 rupees. By the time you count, there's enough money for that. So you don't have to wait for an angel investor or a venture capital fund to come in. The crowdfunding actually gives a kickstart as far as the startup of the businesses is concerned. Now, we feel that research and case studies keep the dynamism together. So the research and case studies are an integral part. Those who believe that whatever the case study was done in 2005 is valid. If I take Tasneem, for example, and I take 2005, I'll be teaching them the wrong kind of study. If I take your example, where you were 10 years ago, and I still use that as a case study, I'll be misleading my students. So it has to be a dynamic process. Even you bring in the same case study up to date and say, you left it here, and now look what has happened today. That's all. I thought I'll make a sort of overall picture as to how we are trying to transform. It's not an easy task, but I thought this is something which may be of interest to this audience.
So, questions, please.
Very inspiring, traditional. I taught in business schools in 4 countries, and this is really very innovative, very entrepreneurial. I just wonder, how did you fund this? Because usually this is not a money-making initiative. You are contributing to the Pakistan economy,
I'm fortunate that my strategy when I took over in 2008 as a dean was based on mobilizing funding not from the government, because the government was not in a position to do that, from the foundations, from the trusts, from the private sector and the corporate sector. And I'm very fortunate that my target has been met after 5 years. So this was also funded by Aman Foundation, which is Abraj Capital, Arif Naqvi's foundation. They gave me a huge grant in order to set this up. And then the running expenses and the operational expenses were given by other donors in Pakistan. So this is how it is operating. I did not take any foreign assistance because then I had to change the terms of reference to meet their. I want to be in the driver's seat, not them. So that's why I didn't keep any foreign aid coming into this.
Madinah Institute for Leadership and Entrepreneurship, MILE.